Deck building video games have become a beloved and rapidly expanding genre over the past 5 to 10 years. As someone who played a lot of different card games growing up, and whose main hobbies now include both card games and board games, as well as video games, I find myself increasingly fascinated by the origins and evolution of this genre. Deck building is a unique concept that translates seamlessly into both physical and digital formats, offering a satisfying blend of strategy, randomness, and progression. But what triggered the genre's recent surge in popularity, and how did it evolve into its current form? To fully grasp the rise of deck building video games, we need to trace their roots back to the tabletop. The concept of deck construction as a central game mechanic isn't a new one. In fact, it's been around for decades in various forms. However, its popularity has grown dramatically in recent years, thanks to key innovations in both the tabletop and digital spaces. Today, we'll embark on a journey through the history of deck building games, exploring how they transitioned from their humble origins on the tabletop to becoming one of the most experimented with genres in all of video games. One could argue that the origins of deck building games is heavily intertwined with the collectible card games and trading card games that captivated us in the 1990s and early 2000s. Games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Laid the groundwork for card-based gaming, offering deep strategic gameplay through the construction and customization of decks. However, there is a fundamental distinction between these games in the deck building genre, and it's the aspect of deck construction itself. In collectible card games and trading card games, players typically construct their decks before the game begins from the many pools of cards that have released over the years, albeit with some format restrictions. Players collect cards over time, carefully curating their collections to build decks that suit their strategies and preferences. The focus is on preparing for the game, with deck construction being a pregame activity that can take hours, days, or even months of playtesting. While this aspect of deck building offers immense strategic depth, it also requires a significant amount of time, monetary investment, and understanding of the current state of the game's meta. Deck building games, on the other hand, shift this dynamic. The innovation lies in integrating the deck building process into the core gameplay. Players start with a basic deck of cards and build up their deck during the game itself, making strategic decisions turn by turn. This new deck building mechanic was popularized by the groundbreaking board game Dominion, which released in 2008. Created by Donald X. Vaccarino, Dominion took the idea of constructing a deck and turned it into an evolving process that unfolded throughout each game session. In Dominion, players compete to acquire cards from a shared pool, using their in-game resources to add to their decks. The game introduced an element of creativity and replayability, as each playthrough could be different based on the available card pool and the strategies of you and your opponents. This approach created a more streamlined experience, as players could build their decks from scratch every game without needing an extensive collection of cards. The innovation in Dominion set the stage for what would become the deck building genre. 3 years later, the deck building mechanic was further refined with the release of Ascension, Chronicle of the Godslayer. Designed by a team that included professional Magic the Gathering players, Ascension offered a faster-paced and more accessible approach to deck building. Unlike Dominion, where players select cards from a fixed set, Ascension featured a constantly changing center row of cards, adding an extra layer of unpredictability and strategy. This evolving market meant players had to adapt their strategies on the fly, reacting to the cards available at any given moment. Ascension not only thrived as a physical card game, but also as a digital game. Its digital adaptation was released for the iPhone later that same year, and for PC in 2014. The game's digital success, marked by an 84 on Metacritic, demonstrated the genre's potential to reach a broader audience through digital platforms. The convenience of digital play, combined with the strategic depth of deck building, made Ascension a significant milestone in the evolution of the deck building genre. While Ascension and Dominion laid the groundwork, the deck building genre truly exploded into mainstream video gaming in 2017 with the release of a game you may have heard of. Developed by Megacrit, Slay the Spire was a groundbreaking fusion of deck building and roguelike elements that captivated players and critics alike. The game introduced a revolutionary way to experience deck building by incorporating it into a single-player procedurally generated dungeon crawling adventure. Slay the Spire allowed players to choose from one of 4 unique characters, each offering a different set of cards and playstyles. As players progress through the game's procedurally generated dungeons, they build their decks in real time, making crucial decisions about which cards to add, which ones to remove, and how to navigate the different paths ahead. The Ironclad focuses on straightforward strength and defense strategies, while the Silent specializes in poison and other status effects. The Defect offers a more complex gameplay experience with its unique orb system, and the Watcher employs a stance mechanic that balances offensive and defensive strategies. But what really set Slay the Spire apart was its seamless blend of deck building and roguelike mechanics. The game's structure of exploring procedurally generated maps filled with random events, enemies of varying difficulty, merchants, treasures, and formidable boss battles makes each run feel like a unique experience as players have to adapt their strategies based on the cards and relics they encounter along the way. This fusion of genres creates a compelling gameplay loop that is both easy to pick up, but also incredibly deep with strategy, offering near endless replayability. Now, I could talk about Slay the Spire for hours, but ultimately, its success can be attributed to its brilliant game design. At its core, Slay the Spire is a masterclass in balancing simplicity and depth, while also crafting an experience that is easy to pick up, but incredibly challenging to master. Its success lies in the meticulous way it blends several game design elements to create a compelling and endlessly replayable experience. Slay the Spire struck a perfect balance between accessibility and strategic depth, allowing newcomers to enjoy the simple card mechanics, while providing veterans with layers of complexity through its synergistic deck building, choice of paths, and resource management. The game's emphasis on meaningful choices, whether during combat, deck building, or navigating the map, offered a captivating experience that could be enjoyed for hundreds, if not thousands of hours without overstaying its welcome. The success of Slay the Spire sparked a renaissance in the deck building genre, creating an entirely new subgenre called roguelike deck builders, which could be a video on its own. But it also inspired a wave of new titles that experimented with and expanded upon the formula. Developers began to explore how deck building mechanics could be integrated into a variety of other genres, leading to a surge of innovative games that combine deck building with elements like tower defense, city building, dice building, and turn-based tactics. One such innovation came with Monster Train in 2020, which combined deck building with tower defense mechanics. Players built decks to defend a multi-floor train against invading enemies, adding another layer of strategy to the deck building experience. The game introduced the concept of multi-floor combat, where players had to strategically place units and cast spells across different levels to protect their train's core. This fusion of mechanics resulted in a fresh take on the genre, providing depth and replayability. Then, in 2021, Inscryption brought a psychological horror twist to the deck building genre. The game blended card-based gameplay with a dark narrative that incorporated escape room style puzzles. Inscryption challenged players not just with deck building strategies, but also with unraveling a chilling story that evolved as they progressed. We've also seen a diverse array of games like Dicey Dungeons creatively incorporate dice rolling mechanics into the deck building genre. In these games, players build a deck of dice, but also strategize around powers and abilities that activate based on specific roles. The dice rolling mechanic changes the playstyle just enough to make the gameplay feel new and fresh. It also adds an extra layer of unpredictability and strategy, making each encounter feel dynamic and engaging. But beyond dice mechanics, the genre has also explored new heights by integrating elements of poker. Games such as Balatro and Dungeon and Degenerate Gamblers blend card play with poker-like decision-making, requiring players to not only manage their decks, but also think about probability and hand composition in a fresh and exciting way. These games introduce a high-stakes, risk-reward dynamic that keeps players on the edge of their seats. However, in my opinion, one of the most intriguing and innovative blends of the deck-building genre might be its fusion with city-building games. Titles like Cardboard Town and Vertical Kingdom present a unique challenge by tasking players with developing cities using a carefully curated deck of cards. Every card drawn represents a new building, resource, or challenge that must be strategically placed to optimize the growth and sustainability of the city. This blend introduces a compelling layer of tactical decision making, as players must balance short-term gains with long-term planning, all while adapting to the random elements inherent in both genres. By combining the strategic depth of city building with the unpredictability and variety of deck building, these games offer a fresh and engaging take on both the city building and deck building genres. The future of deck building video games is bright and filled with potential. As developers continue to experiment with the formula, we're likely to see even more hybrid genres that incorporate deck building mechanics in new and innovative ways. From city building to turn-based tactics and even real-time strategy, the genre is evolving to encompass a wide array of gameplay experiences. The beauty of deck building lies in its inherent flexibility. Whether it's a roguelike dungeon crawler, a strategic tower defense game, or a narrative-driven RPG, the mechanic of building a deck over time offers endless possibilities for creative game design. This has led to a thriving indie scene where developers can explore niche ideas and push the boundaries of what deck building games can be. In the coming years, I think we can look forward to deck building mechanics continuing to shape not just dedicated deck building games, but also genres that have yet to fully explore card-based gameplay. As developers push the boundaries of what deck building can achieve, blending it with an array of different mechanics, the genre shows no signs of slowing down. The ongoing success of these innovative hybrids suggests a future rich with possibilities, where the strategic depth and versatility of deck building can enhance and transform a wide variety of gaming experiences. My name is Doodad. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and may the heart of the cards guide you.